That was too much fun. Way too much fun. Okay, we now know what we have to have. I hope everybody's good tonight. Thank you for being here. I know some of you are several hours ahead of us. I appreciate your commitment. I'm looking to see who's present and want to make sure you can hear me okay. Yep, you can. Okay. Thank you. I have to tell you, quite honestly, I have been as nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs about this. But the people have been extremely excited. The energy's just been dancing. So, the way I'm feeling it, Anku is okay if we ask other family members questions also. I'm looking South Dakota. Thank you. I'm immediately seeing Kathy McIntyre's. If there's a question early on, I'm going to apologize. You can resend it because it doesn't show me everything. Excuse me. Anku says he does not personally speak with our government. He does relay that there are a few, I'm sensing maybe 3 or 4, that do work sublimely with, he's bringing up specifically environmental departments. So it might be that they're trying to use their powers of persuasion in the best way possible. But as far as a one-on-one, I'm not seeing face-to-face meetings. I hope that answers that. Okay, let's slow down. Let's see. Do they only show themselves to certain people? If yes, why? They, he had briefly touched on the ones that are most often seen are going to be the type 2s and type 3s because they are more bound to the physical earth plane, and that gives them a different kind of density. The type 1s, such as these, might be intermittently seen, but it actually takes a huge amount of work for them to bring their vibration down to such a rate that they can manifest in physical form. They do, but they have to be extremely focused on something in the physical space to do that. And he's saying that some of that too is our ability, especially with the type 1s, that our eyes, our perception changes over time, and it makes it easier to see them also. So it's kind of a meeting in the middle feeling that I'm getting. It's not showing themselves to certain people by way of specific privilege, although safety might be an issue in some cases. Let's see. I'll go back a little bit. Thank you, Roxana. How do the big people handle the cold? They actually handle it really well. The way that it's the way that it's been shown to me, I'm going to hope to have room to confirm this, is in the design of their hair. They have the ability to willfully, and it's kind of hard to explain. I'm hoping Anku will give me the right words. But the word thermal was coming to my mind, and it's the sense that they can retain heat as they need to. And likewise, they have a way of repelling too much heat. They have no problem staying warm. That's just a matter of, I said, he shows me like a jacket, like their fur is very much like a jacket. They're insulated. I'm trying to see if there's any more about that. It seems very simple to him, and I'm sure for us, it would, sorry, I was just listening. The other thing he was showing me was, do you remember the old radiator heaters and the way that circulated? There's something in their circulation that offers even distribution of body temperature. And it's almost like when the season changes, their body just knows to do this. And it feels like it can be regulated, because he's actually showing me a control knob on that radiator heater as though it can be regulated according to their environment or the temperatures in that environment. I hope that answers that question. I see another one, Angie. What do they know? Whoops, I just lost you for a second. What do they know about human beings' way of life? Do they understand our culture? They actually know probably more about us than we often know about ourselves, our nature. With that said, he's giving me the word restrictions. They understand the restrictions that we've been under, and it's created a lot of patience and compassion within them in the way that they work with us, and they understand that we just, he shows me a plate, like he would give so much at one time, and once that's been digested, so to speak, then he might offer another plate. They're very good at reading energy, and if something's too much, especially the teachers, they're really good about backing off and allowing the student, the individual, to process the information that they've been given and to kind of incorporate it into their life, into their space. He said, unfortunately, we truly understand your culture, and not unfortunate in the way of that's a bad thing, but he's mentioning the competitiveness particularly, and the desire for, and this falls in line with that competitiveness, the desire for one-upmanship instead of bringing each of our gifts and our talents together, our ideas, and making one great thing out of that. He's showing how it's all kept separate and has a very mind mentality behind it. The way that they assimilate information and the way that their culture, he shows me one big basket that they will contribute equally. Short of the small ones, they're kind of exempt because of age. But especially those in leadership, or again the teachers, they will put their information together and try to come up with ideas based on the different things that they're each witnessing in their individual student or their individual area. Fascinating. Anything else, Anku? Okay. Who does whoops after the dinner bell? I feel Junior stepping right up, and he's like, me. He does not want to be left out of all this. He's very excited. And he shows me took with him. So I think little brother might help, or not so much after the dinner bell, but some of the other whoops that we've heard. He's very much copying much of what Junior does and what he sees works. And he's also aware of the attention that Junior's gotten for his participation. So now it feels like Took is kind of looking for his own way to get attention. He seems very independent, like he doesn't want to be a copycat, but he doesn't want to be outdone by Junior either. So, but the dinner bell, I hear Junior saying it's fun. It's fun. And it's got a very game-like energy to him. He's gotten permission, specific permission to participate with us vocally. And sometimes that's a grunt. Sometimes it's a whoop. I kind of hear the grumbling, like sometimes somebody's telling him to settle down or telling him not to get overboard. And I think some of the grumbling that we hear might be him in rebuttal. Like a lot of young ones, he doesn't like to be told no, but he is respectful, so he tries to follow the rules the best he can. So yeah, let's see. What do we have next? I'm reading Susan Marie. Is he aware of Zorth stating that Trump will win in the end? Okay, Anku. Are you aware? This is from Susan Marie. Are you aware that it's being said by Zorth that Trump will win in the end? Boy, he's pausing. He's confirming that he is aware of the statement. He doesn't feel like he really wants to get too political, just because he wants this to be a coming together. And he must not trust, or it feels like he doesn't trust, that couldn't create some kind of divide He is aware that the statement was made, and that's all he's really feeling like he's willing to contribute on that at this moment. Um, let's see. Do they pick the people who they want to show themselves to? Often. He says often. Once in a while, especially with the juveniles, he's saying that, they might be caught up in what they're doing and not paying attention if there's a hiker or somebody in the area. Excuse me. But as a rule, he's saying that they are generally very careful about who they show themselves to. Sometimes he shows me as a people that they've used this often to get attention, or it's kind of that old saying I'm getting in my head is kind of like a kid. If you can't get good attention, you'll get bad attention. And so they might even risk showing themselves to someone that they know may not understand them or respect them. But generally, he's showing me that it's at very key points where they will let themselves be seen more as confirmation for man than it is about them getting a proper relationship out of it or anything else. It's more in just bringing them more into our awareness. Interesting. Let's see. Mercury 80, so Bay. I felt you facilitated, with the help of Faba Sequa, a meeting with the family of a Bach in the UK. If this is so, I wanted to thank you. He's smiling. Aw. Is this a role you would like to play in the future? He's giving me the sense that really, really was fun to him. And feels like the first time he was able to, the word I'm getting is delegate. And it feels like it's a sense of him utilizing connections and kind of working with Faba Sequa to say, here's a great student. Would you be willing to work with her because she's done this with our people, and we feel that she would be a good candidate for you to work with, because those people there are back. That's a very old family, and I feel that they're reasonably particular about who they allow into their space. And I think that there have probably been reasons for that. Maybe in times past, because Sobe kind of shows me a little arm twisting, like a little convincing to give it a try. And I feel like the results have been very good. And he's very pleased that it's worked out the way that it has. So, yeah, I think he would like to be able to implement those types of connections where he can. Great experience for him, he said. And just backing up a little. Sorry, guys. Can you recognize people that have had interaction with your people? Ask me that again, John. Can I in other words, can I identify people, our people that have worked with the people or our family that we work with? If you'd be willing to elaborate just a tiny bit on that question, it'll help me. Will people ever have a conversation with them? And why are there some who are nice and some who seem to be on attack mode? So, Marty, in the short Bigfoot series that's posted here, it's got its own playlist. It might help you more, but the way that Anku had explained that there are types. We have a type 1, we have a type 2, and we have a type 3. The type 3 are often, those that they might have been created out of inbreeding. They might have certain birth defects or, learning disabilities. Some of them in their upbringing have been raised by more violent or aggressive types. So they tend to react first and think later. They'll throw that boulder first to clear their space if there's something they pose as kind of as a threat. Type 2s are usually more remote, but they're not all truly type 2s. A lot of them are just, they haven't really seen a point to being around man based on what they have known about man. We could probably all agree on occasion that we've been there. The type 1s are very often the ones that are the teachers and the healers and, are much more present in our culture or influencing those of us that have a proper heart space or a proper ability to accept those teachings. And they are truly interdimensional. They're truly magical in the way that they work. So as far as conversation goes, the ones that mind speak the most often are going to be the type 1s because they are exceptional when it comes to work with frequency and vibration and communication. When the family mind speaks with me, whether I'm here or out in the woods or wherever we are, it's generally going to be a point that's more like a lesson, or if I have a specific question, that answer will almost immediately be there. So in that regard, they kind of work like a little like spirit guides, if you're familiar with that, but they bring the information in just as you need it. I'm looking at your question again, Marty. So In approaching the people, anyone can develop, if you have a pure intention and at least a basic level of acceptance, and you approach them with respect, which often is asking permission to be in a space that you feel that they inhabit. Most often, you will find that there is at least one that would like to develop a relationship and have conversation with you. Now, as far as face-to-face conversation, like you and I speaking to each other, that's probably going to be a little further out currently. But as far as being able to have that interaction, it can be done. Val, do they feel the energies of those that follow you and kin as far as the number of and intention? Yes. Anku has shown me that, which is part of why they were kind of excited, I think, about tonight, is because as opposed to human beings, they have that more one heart, one mindset. And so, for those of you that are a part of our regular viewers, subscribers, especially if there's been commentation or anything to bring you to their awareness, they're very aware of our group. And much of our experience through this last year and some change has been very much about the group that they saw developing, the group awareness. So it has been for us, but it's also been for you guys, in that often what they will bring to the table will be in line with what you're able to process too. There have been times that I felt a lot of download or information trying to come through from Anku about certain things, but I also felt him say, hold it, not discard it, just hold it until. And basically, he lets me know when the group's ready for it. And probably part of the reason that they haven't flat out shown up on camera is because not all of the group is ready for that. And the last thing they want to do is create fear. We have enough of it. But they do feel the energy of all of you. And some of you have reported that you've gotten instant healing, and felt very strongly that it was from the family and or Anku specifically. And I have no doubt in my mind that that capability is there. If your heart's in the right place to receive it, I don't feel that they are greedy, about how they work with people. And if he knew, for example, that you didn't have anybody else to turn to at that moment, and there was something he could facilitate, his heart is the type that he would go ahead and facilitate that. With that said, if there's somebody in your area that he respects as, say, another elder or someone that has the capability of doing this, depending on the situation, I feel that he tries to comply with those rules of respect. And he might reach out to, in some of the sessions we've had, he's helped connect a teacher in this area away from him because he's aware of them and he can communicate with them. He may not be able to be that personal teacher, but he can help line it up. Let's see. How does Anku feel about the Sasquatch that have bred with human women? He's kind of smiling in as much as I'm hearing him say he does not know any personally. Okay, Anku. Sasquatch breeding with human women. For the first time, I actually feel him stumped. He's really pausing as if he's wondering who has done this. And he's giving me the sense that if it's happened, it's really been a much longer time than it's not in his memory or in his awareness. So possibly this comes out of a different type. He said that anything that's disrespectful should not happen, whether that's between them and us or us and us, them and them. He said respect is key, and he would never agree with anything that happened out of disrespect. So it's interesting, and I don't think it's happened as often as people might think. I'd be curious to know how many actual reports there have been of that would be legitimized. Because he truly feels like he's searching for that information, like he's searching for it. But what he can say is that if anything is ever done out of disrespect between species or between us individually, it should never be allowed. He never condones anything that would be done invasively. If a female were taken advantage of or anything like that. Now, if it's mutual, if it's a female and she's hooked up with a Sasquatch, he's kind of putting his hands on, what can you say? But it can create its own challenges genetically, and that would be more of a concern. Because he gives me the sense that if a child actually were created and survived, that it would give a whole new definition to the word displacement. And they and we, he's saying all of us as individual species already have difficulty with unity. So creating something else that's going to automatically be separate or individualized, unaccepted, he's just saying it can be very problematic and sad for the child. Okay. Let's see. Can we start doing EVPs at the gifting trees? We can try. We got some audio, did the EVP one night. it's possible that we can get some more. A lot of it has to be, the pitch and the speed have to be adjusted, but certainly willing to try it. Let's see. Have I missed questions, guys? Is the female to male ratio roughly 1 to 1? He says, I'm getting a yes. Female to male 1 to 1. Very close. Sometimes it's very, actually I'm getting almost like a 2 to 3. Actually, I'm getting that there may be 2 or 3 females to every male, and it might be that it's a matter of protecting the species, that if anything should ever happen, then they have some extra females that can breed. So it might be 2 to 1 or 3 to 1. Okay, let's see. You guys are getting ahead of me. 1 second, just reading here. How big are their babies? Is there one before that? Oh yeah, hang on. Sorry about that, guys. You guys are getting ahead of me. Do the female juveniles act differently than the male juveniles? Yes. Yes, very much so. Much more reserved. And they kind of help the mamas a lot. Males have more mobility, if you will, less responsibility. Sharon, if you mind speak in an area that you're visiting, if they are there, will they communicate, or does it take a while to build trust? You know, I would have once said it can take a while to build trust, but our experience a couple weeks ago when we went to that area where the deer hunting and all that was going on, almost immediately, those people have been very present. And when we did the day walk out there, Nakun was just like this in communicating. So I would say, and Anku confirms that the bond can start immediately, and depending on your personal gifts, talents, receptivity, it doesn't have to be anything dynamic. Most of it's in receptivity, he says. He's saying that if you've gone through the proper measures as far as displaying the respect, maybe at least thinking, if not speaking, that you would like to communicate with any that would communicate with you. You might initially hear rock clacking or wood knocking or something by way of a whistle. He's saying, but if you're receptive to it or you've experienced it before, they might immediately start communicating with you. So it really isn't something that requires a huge amount of experience in, I would say, based on the way that I'm feeling, that most of it lies here within you. And for them to be able to read that intention and that they can feel your desire to establish communication or relationship. Stacy, could Anku give us an understanding about the veil? Why does it exist? And how can we learn to see through it? Great question. Wow. Well, he said it exists. He says it exists as a measure of safety. Because most human beings, hang on just a second, because he's taking me back to a period of time, and I want to say it's the Dark Ages, maybe 1500. 15, 16, before that, 12, 1400 maybe. But he's taking me back to a period of time where the veil became very dense, and a lot of the elementals stopped being seen. A lot of the he mentions dragons, but the veil was thinner at one time, and it feels like it got thicker, more wall-like, because of certain political measures that were happening. And basically people, the way that I'm feeling it is that people's lives were at stake if they even verbalized that they had witnessed this or witnessed that. It is getting thinner again. And he said, but it's really been a step-by-step process because the mind of man is different. And if you, as an example, he's showing me if you were walking in the woods and all of a sudden you saw a mythological looking being, call it a dragon, or I don't know. There's so many. Your mind could not grasp what you're seeing. So he said it's really been a matter of safety, excuse me, to the human mind, in that in order for their structure culturally to coincide. Interesting. But it's almost like this steel curtain. Like I just feel like there was a period of time where everything was very wide open, and then all of a sudden this steel curtain came down. Now we're getting back to being able to see through it. Pardon me. Because we have reopened our willingness to accept. He said it actually comes a lot from people's ET experiences, or what they call ET. They've begun expanding their ideas about what is and isn't. And so the more accepting we are of the things that can't exist and begin to realize that they can, our awareness thins that veil. So it's a very external response to what we collectively are going through. Anything else, Anku? But he's saying this happened for almost all dimensions for a while. Not just, say, 3D to 4D or 3D to 5D, 4D, 5D, but all of the dimensions became very hard to work with because the walls between them, the fabric that creates that layer, became very dense for a very long time. And it has taken a huge, he said, you may not realize it, but it's taken you a huge amount of energy to surpass those walls, to surpass the limitations, the boundaries, and the things that those walls represent. And it almost feels like it was a huge test to us as mankind to see if we could go from being blind into being able to see again. Wow. And then he's saying that everything was easily seen before and taken for granted. So yeah, it's like the blinders or the mud went into our eyes, and we've had to come all the way back into that knowing again. And he said it's a huge feat, a huge endeavor that we have gone through as a species. And it feels like it will never be that steel wall again. That part of the fabric thinning the way that it is because it is time for us to evolve. And sorry, my foot was going to sleep. It's almost, it feels very in line with that evolution, that it was necessary for us to have those blinders for a while because it wasn't time for us to move forward yet. It wasn't time for the earth to evolve yet. So by bringing that steel curtain down, it just really slowed up the process and put it back in line with divine timing, just a little bit better. Oh, you're welcome, Stacy. That was, I hope that came out well. Kevin, do they shed or? He said, nope, they don't shed. Now, some in colder environments might have a thicker coat than some that are in more neutral environments. And likewise, those that are in hotter environments may have a very thin coat of hair, but I'm not really seeing that they do naturally shed. Other than the occasional, if the brush catches their hair or something like this, but not a true shed. All right. How do you get crystal? So, in getting the people to interact, the first thing I always advise, even if you're aware that they're there, even if you've found glyphs or you've found feet or you've found whatever structures, I would go through every step that we've talked about. I would ask first, if it's okay for you to be in their space. Generally, by asking, they're going to say yes. I mean, if it were a female with young ones, or, and you can feel that. You can feel that yes or no. If you don't physically hear it, if something says don't step forward, it might just be that particular location. That doesn't mean that they wouldn't be willing to work with you. You can ask then, if there's a better area for us to work together, would you be willing to show me? And it might be that something catches your eye elsewhere. To get them to interact with you, the 3 clacks, you can try the rock clacks. It's easier to manage the rocks. But the 3 clacks very often, and I've often wondered if Anku's showing me that if you clap your hands 3 times, that they'll still understand what's going on. Whistling. If you're a good whistler, you can whistle to them, but the rock clacks, the 3 specifically, is an invite to interact. They may or may not respond right away. You can also try, it really depends on the people you're working with, but you can also try the Y, the Y branch, and leave it. He's showing me standing up. If you leave it standing up in a particular area, but he's kind of giving me a tilt on the head with the trail cam. If you use a camera, any kind, especially a trail cam, announce what you're doing. And it sounds, I know how it sounds, but say, look, I'm setting this trail cam up to do this. Because what they don't like about trail cams especially is the sneakiness of it. The feeling that, you're going to outsmart them. But if you are integral and you say, I'm going to hang this trail cam up, if you're willing to show yourself, because they will sometimes, literally, we've had cameras taken. Others, we've had branches placed in front of them, whole branches. So, even as much of a relationship as we've developed, ours still are not crazy about trail cams. So just kind of play that by ear. And if you notice that it's not feeling like a trusted environment, you might reconsider the trail cams. They seem to be much better about regular cameras for some reason. And I really believe it is the fact that we're participating with a regular camera. Anku, he's reminding me too that they don't like anything that's in front of your face. So if you're taking a picture, try, if you can, to hold it out or in such a way that it's not hiding your face. There's something very distrusting in that to them as well. And it might be because for everything that hides on them, their faces are almost always exposed. So just food for thought there. Hi. Okay. How would a Sasquatch know what a radiator is? Talking about the old radiator heaters. What often happens is, in him trying to interject a thought or an idea, my mind will respond to that vibration or to that frequency and form a visual that matches what is trying to be communicated. So, excuse me. And some things he has a very clear idea about what they are. In that case, it could be that that was something that my mind was picking up on as he was trying to explain circulation and trying to explain that there's a certain kind of control in that circulation. I hope that helps. Would Anku be willing to give us any insight into how they manage injuries or what medicines they use in the forest? They, so for these, he says, in most cases, especially the females, have the ability to work energetically. If there's injury, but I do see them using like a, what would we call it? Like a poultice. It would be because, and I'm asking Mama to help me with this. I'm seeing moss, bark, and I'm trying to see if there's a specific type of bark. It feels like a very light bark. Like if you were up north, it would be the equivalent of like a birch bark or something that peels easily, more paper-like, very thin. And she shows me getting it wet. But there's something very medicinal about the trees to them. Moss feels like it would be more for if they hurt a foot. I see her like they would. She shows me a young one, like maybe this has happened with one of the younger ones where they've hurt a foot or done something, and I feel like they take that moss and it's more for the cushion of it than it is a medicinal property. But bark is what these use the most for healing, and I just get the sensation that they might wrap, or if it's wet and it's thin, they might place it on a scrape or a cut. But it's very seldom, she said, that they actually get hurt. The young get hurt more often, rolling around, wrestling around. And she's trying to give me the name of what I think is an herb. Sheep. But there are a couple herbs, and I feel like they prevent infection or prevent fever from getting out of control. I apologize, Lizette. I may have to look that up and see if I can find the herb that she's referring to. AV. Does Anku see changes in 2021? Well, Anku, do you see changes in 2021? Yep. Several. He's given me the sense that a lot of things will change And he mentions specifically transportations. Um, there's going to be he's talking about information, and that this what I'm seeing is something like a window, and I feel like the curtains are being pulled back on that window, so there may be a lot of new information that comes through this year, things that um, what I'm hearing is strengthens your knowledge. And he's saying that we've been operating out of the middle to lower end of the 3D. And as we're approaching 4D, he's showing me this heart space, and that it's very much about air and our ability to breathe. And part of the challenge with what we've been through in 2020 is almost everybody has, you know, the quote of "I can't breathe." So part of what's gone on is it's bringing us closer to that natural 4D or more elevated state of being. And this is one of the challenges that has been set up for us to get through in order to, and I just feel this energy trying to pull back and keep us from breaching that. And it's the sense of not being able to express. It's not just physical breath, it's not being able to express and be who we are naturally. But there's something very, he shows me something very driven in the human spirit to say, tell me I can't, and I'll show you I can. And they have a huge amount of respect for that. And this year is going to be very much about us saying, tell me I can't, and I'll show you I can. And us coming up with other ways to stay together and support each other. You know, we're used to being able to be in each other's spaces. We're used to being able to just kind of be more one-on-one. And one of the biggest things that's been taken away this year for most of us is the ability to easily be in each other's space and experience one another. But he's showing me that a lot of people are going to begin to reform or find new ways to create a sense of community. Sorry, he was just he was saying that's part of why he was kind of excited about this, because even Ken and I, other than a few podcasts and what we have posted by way of our own videos, have been somewhat restricted, like everybody else, as far as creating that real sense of community. And there's something about this type of platform that when they perceive it is much more personal. And our challenge, he said, is to find a way to get through these limitations, but to still be able to implement that heart space, implement how we feel. What can we do to express who we are naturally and bring those ideas and things together instead of all those separate boxes he was talking about? Put them in the basket and see how we're going to overcome what we perceive right now as limitations. Interesting. Thank you, Anku. Anku, understand that family celebrates events with their own music by drumming. on their chest and singing. Are the songs individual to the family group, or do they represent an oral history? Let's see. Anku, your songs, are they tribal? Tribal. Is it a tribal history specific to your family? You know, Sally, I get the sense that he's saying it's a tribal chant, not just specifically one family or another, but the bigger family. And that it's very in line with their history, and it's a consistent reminder for them to remember who they are, because they are also very affected by what we're going through. And it's the sense, or he's given me the sense of that being a statement, more than a song, more than just a chant. It's a statement. And it doesn't feel that it's ever willing to be resigned or forgotten. That's a better word. I hope that answers that. Okay, so you're welcome. How big are their babies, and do they develop faster than humans so that they would walk earlier than human babies? Let's see. So, Mama, maybe you can help me, Mama. I think some of this also depends on the size of the actual people. Okay, Mama, how tall are you? Are you 6 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot, 9 foot? Not quite 9 feet. So she's estimating, say, 8.5 feet. With that, Mama, she's kind of chuckling and saying, now remember, I'm prone to twins, so let me ask her about how much Junior weighed at birth. My little glutton. Okay, thank you. So was he 10 pounds? 15, 20, near 20. Near 20 pounds as a single. And they do develop faster. No. She's correcting me. One moment. I'm sorry. They actually stay on the mother. I feel like she's telling me 2 years, 18 months to 2 years. Some of that depending on environment and so on. Is that right, Mama? So right now, Quinn and Duffy, for example, are they 3 yet, Mama? No. Do they walk with you now? Yes. So did they start walking at 2? She's kind of giving me this feeling of a no, but it's more like they were in between. Like she was working with them to walk with her. But they've really, like about 18 months to 2 years old is when I feel the mothers putting those babies down and giving them the opportunity to practice walking. But for the most part, that the babies very much cling to them and hang off of them until they are closer to at least 2. Some of that is also that they spend a lot of time teaching them other things besides the walking, as far as behaviors, things that might be dangerous to them around people, things to eat, things to not consume, noise. And I feel like that's actually given first priority. And then they start working on some of the other attributes, because when they teach them to walk, I feel like they also begin to teach them how to make structures and things that kind of help them learn the art of cloaking, or at least good camouflage. But they're never far from their mother, even if they are walking. Let's see. Ask Anku about their rock stiff glyph photo that I sent you. Well, Claudia, what I will do is email you back on that. Let's see. Let me email you on that, Claudia. It might be a little easier since I can't show the photo and it won't help the group. How's everybody doing? Are you guys getting tired? Figgy, I wonder if you get nervous when going to other places. Well, no. Honestly, I think anyone in a new area is going to be kind of listening to every sound, or being more aware of what is going on. But we haven't, knock on wood, we've been so blessed and well protected that we haven't had any truly bad experiences. Now, whether that's an approach or just the fact that we are relaxed, and so, we're not putting out that vibe. So far, I haven't really. I was more concerned over our deer hunters than I actually was about anything by way of cryptids or wild animals in the woods. We don't have any true predatory animals that we have to worry about in that way. And as far as the cryptids go, thus far, like I said, knock on wood, we've really been blessed, and I'm sure anything can happen to change my mind. But no, it's usually exciting, and it's fascinating to find the different signs and the different types of communications and things, and how they're different from area to area. Degenerati, do they have a name for the short, hairy folk whose hair color changes with the seasons? He's asking if you're talking about, or maybe I'm asking, we're asking, are you talking about Pukwudgies? Most of the names that they have for these, he doesn't have a good or different name for than what we, in their language, I feel it might be tricky for him to give that to us in a way that I can say well because of the way they breathe when they speak. Um, but the first thing that came to mind were pukwudgies. Mm. Oh, and they're life dwellers. Just that's funny. Do they fear the pukwudgies? I don't know. Are you afraid of pukwudgies? Around the children, they do watch the pukwudgies, but they're not afraid of them per se. Um, they are very cautious of them, though, especially around the young ones. And I think that the pukwudgies are a lot of trouble, uh, kind of malicious sometimes, or in certain areas. Interesting. You got it, Angie. Um, if you go into a new area, what's the best way to contact them? And how do you know if they're friendly? Um, Willis, I would say whether by thought or word, I would recognize if you strongly feel they are there, and I know your property is full of crazy stuff too. Um, I would just say if there are any here that might be interested in interacting, if you could leave me, a glyph, a sign, a rock, something, and have a designated area that you feel good about working in. If you feel like you want to leave an apple or a rock there, something particular, quartz is very key to them. So if you have quartz, that might be welcome. And again, if you do like the 3 clacks or rock clacks, traditionally that will give them the message that you want to interact. Um, we've gotten a lot of gifts by way of rocks, feathers, glyphs. Of course, the vine workings they did. Sometimes, if you leave something, they'll leave something in exchange, bones. Um, so they're, a lot of, we've been asked a couple of times why they don't leave a number of gifts, but they actually do. And truthfully, I think for Ken and I at least, getting a glyph outside of the door or the minute we walk into the woods or something that's very specific is a true gift. And the fact that they're willing to invest their time in us, to me, is a true gift. So, yeah, it's not quite the same as the food that we leave um, as a thank you, but it's all in what we perceive to be a gift. I've gotten some beautiful feathers, flowers, shiny pebbles, you know, and the things that are beautiful to one person might not seem as pretty to another person. But when I find those specific, especially like heart shaped rocks or things like that, I think about the time it took for them to find that specific rock or that specific branch or whatever they were working with. And to me, that's a huge gift that they were willing to invest that time just to say thank you. So the let's see, looking, you'll know Also, Willis, a lot of times, almost immediately, they'll either leave an X or leave a Y or a mix thereof right there where are trying to communicate with them. And especially if it's a Y, you've got a friendly bunch. Or if they do the 3 clacks back, you might hear them a little period of time afterward. You'll know. You'll be able to feel. Just like they can feel your intention, you'll be able to feel if you're welcome in their space and if they are peaceful. Anku's kind of shown me that really the type 3s are actually a minimum. Unfortunately, most of the sightings or stories that we have gotten have been about these more aggressive types. The people that actually deal with the friendly ones, funny enough, he said don't talk as much about their experience, or might question it more and spend more time validating it because it's not in their face. And by then, they don't really want to expose the people if they've found out that they are warm and friendly and helpful, or teachers, or whatever they are to them. Maybe just friends. So the ones that do have those relationships tend to cherish them more than the experiencers that have the aggressive stories to tell. So unfortunately, we think that the majority of the people are those aggressive ones, and he's saying that's not the case. They're actually a very small percentage, like 20% or less. Let's see. Where are we at, guys? Let's see, Dwight, I think we answered that we would try to get more EVPs for you. Pepper, yeah, they do. In fact, Zorth came to visit here, and that's on the playlist. They were moving part of their people to other areas because of the forest fires and the lack of habitat that some of them had, at least for a little while. So they do know at least Zorth, and I'm sure that they know. Yeah, I have no doubt that Anku knows all of them. Thank you, Joyce. I love those sardines. Thank you, Kevin. I'm still thinking about what it would look like for Ken to give Junior belly rubs. If he can't, you just see Junior laying on his back with his big old belly up in the air. You might have started something, Kevin. In these young ones, I think we're going to start seeing more and more in a variety of areas. The other night I said something about these younger ones being a real Generation X, if you will, to the people. Some of what we've had to work through has been in the comfortability of the young ones, while the older ones are still kind of holding a standard as to visibility, interactivity, and most of all, safety. So I feel, at least with this family, the older ones want this to happen. But there's still just residual concern. I don't think that they feel that we are necessarily an issue. But what if the young ones got used to being able to act just any old way around us and misinterpret that and say, I don't know, by whatever freak of nature they're exposed to other human beings and they go to acting that way around them, does that threaten their well being? So some of the pause, I think, uh, has been in how their question is, how can we teach them to do this? How can we teach them to develop these bonds and still maintain safety? So I think they've put a lot of extra focus in teaching the young ones about intention and really being able to feel the intention of any human that they're around and being able to interpret that properly. Um, and it really feels like it's all about safety. I feel like the people want to be known, but they don't have that clear message yet. It's gotten better. Anku's confirming and stopping me and saying it's gotten so much better, and he feels like he's pointing to you and saying that because of you guys, and there are others, but because of your mindset, because of your thinkability in all of this, that it's beginning to shift for them too. And he's shown me that our healing, make sure I hear him correctly, our healing is very key to their healing as a people. And there again, it goes into genetics. But when we heal genetically in our DNA, whatever we heal, whether it is programmed experience, uh, programmed emotions like fear, anger, uh, any of these that are out of balance, as we heal, he's saying we heal uh, forward and backward. So not only do we conquer that, and this has come up before with him, but not only do we conquer that for the generations before us by way of our own bloodlines, family, and we conquer it for the future generations so that our children aren't having to fight with that. Because it is, if we don't change that, they will have the same challenge. Energetically, there's no boundary on this past, present, future. It's all now, and we hold the keys to that. But he is saying, Anku is saying that our healing is very implemental in their healing through some of the experiences, as we've talked about, type 3s, type 2s, and so on. But their historical story. And there, for some, and he brings up Yowies specifically, but there's some that are much angrier than others traditionally. And they are needing that healing. So it feels to me that their investment in us as a people is somewhat, he's kind of looking a little cheeky in that he's saying it's kind of self-serving, not really, but a little bit, because they understand with us. So it serves them well to help us heal. Okay. Lisbeth, it's been said that what one of them sees, they all see. Yes. Um, I think the other saying that I've heard that's similar to this is if one knows you, they all know you. They do very much work off of a collective. And again, he's excluding the type threes. Those poor type threes. They just, it's kind of like, but they do. So what one experiences, they're all aware of. Um, if you have treated them kindly, they will all know that. And at the very least, there's something I feel that happens to our energetic field when we do acknowledge and then possibly develop relationship with these people. It's almost an energetic mark, and I feel like the others can see it. And it says this one's okay. So if you were to run into another one, and I had questions about that when we went up to the Watchtaw Mountains, because they were so present so quickly, and everything inside of me said it was because they already knew that we weren't a threat, that we were on their side, so to speak. And I think it just kind of elevated and increased what would have taken much longer. So yeah, it is. I feel it is true, and Anku confirms. I just feel him nodding, saying, "Yeah, they know when something's happened to one of theirs, any distance." But there again, with that one heart, it's almost like if you can imagine a string like on a guitar being, it's in the vibration, and they feel it vibrationally, whereby if they need more information on that, if something feels like it's wrong or something feels like it's happened, if they need more information on that, then they can hone in on that. But it's all in frequency and vibration. Okay, what else have we got going? Let's see. Who dropped the acorns on Ken's head in his last video? I was going to give him a nickel for doing it. All right, who dropped the acorns? Who took? Well, he was part of it. He's saying, I think Took was in on it, but I was kind of feeling Quinn in on it too, which is funny. Quinn's pretty good size for his age. So if Took had him and was kind of keeping watch over him, he might have either given him the idea to do it or just let him do it so he wouldn't get in trouble. But I think it was Took and Quinn. Where are we at? Looking. Thank you all for being here. I've really enjoyed this. Does Took think Ken's head is a perfect target for acorns? Yeah. I do think that Took is a mischief. He doesn't seem to do anything that's truly dangerous, but we'd kind of deduced that Junior dared him to do things often. And I'm kind of thinking that he might have just known that Quinn was willing to do it and just didn't stop him from doing it. Is Anku in the Council of 12? Certain. Council of 12, Anku. Yes. Yes. The way it's been presented is Anku is over, in his role, he's over this more southeastern region. It feels like it might get cut off maybe just below I-70 or right about I-70, so it's not, and it feels like it goes at least all the way to Texas, or just rivers are very important to them for boundaries. They don't plot things with latitude and longitude the way that we do. So this area is more southeastern to them rather than central. I'm still learning about the way that they do areas. Let's see. Mark, the best that we've been able to deduce is that the campers got scared. Yeah, scared off. Left in a hurry, weren't coming back. That's consistently the feedback that we've gotten on it. There's a lot of really creepy, weird stuff that goes on back there, but I'm not sure that it's that campsite that's responsible for that. Let's see. Yes, Pepper. In fact, I think, did we just answer this? Yes. Zorth came to visit, gosh, it was still hot weather, so I want to say September. But like I said, it's in the playlist. He decided to take a minute and speak. Val, do you feel they'll ever attempt to sit down face to face? They all seem to be, I was just watching or listening, feeling, they all seem to be nodding their heads and saying, yeah, they'd love it. Probably, like, I'm seeing a 95% chance that it'll be off camera until everybody's ready for it, which that's been probably part of our little bit of struggle, is in the hopes, kind of like the few times we've caught Junior, maybe Sobe, in the hopes that we can share that, but it's gonna fall into a sacred space, at least to start, and then it'll just have to evolve on its own as to what they feel comfortable with. Desiree, can you talk to them? Like, send a message out to the universe trying to connect with them, even if not going to the forest. Yes, you can. Once a connection's been made with these people, I've always said they're the ultimate empath. And if I compare it to, let's say you're thinking about an old coworker or somebody you haven't seen for a length of time, and for, they're really on your mind all of a sudden, and then the phone rings, because subconsciously or intuitively all that energy is working back and forth. And we forget that we have that ability very often. These guys operate similarly in that if you're thinking of them or you're thinking of something that pertains to them particularly, um, they'll pick up on it just like that. So, yeah, we don't really have to be out in the woods for that to work, um, nor does anybody else. Some people are just more comfortable in that space, I guess. One second. Where were they born? Well, they're from a variety of places, and oftentimes, at least with these, David, um, I don't know if okay, were you born here? No. Sorry. Yes. So Anku's family is actually from the southern Ozark region. Um, Mama, from here. I feel Mama's family is from this more eastern side of that. And for them, it feels like it's very much about bloodlines. So perhaps if they don't have enough good genetic material, in their area, then they have to kind of branch outward to make sure to keep that fresh um, pool of genes working. Who's next? Yes, Pepper. How often does type 1 travel through portals? A day, a month, or a year? Well, Anku saying consistently. Is there a number, Anku? Uh, Almost, I guess, I feel him countering the question with, are you counting the portals in the woods, like from one part of the woods to another as well? Because it's just almost nonstop. If Even when we're out there, if they're at, say, a tree that's, I'm just shooting numbers out there, 50 feet in front of us, and we're getting closer and closer and closer, a lot of these trees have what they're a framed in area, and we call them something of a portal pad. But they'll have another tree, say, on the hillside that might be a safer distance. Now, sometimes they'll stay put, but especially when we first started really interacting with them, we were understanding that they would basically think about that tree or that spot and basically could just move themselves to it. Uh, they have hundreds. He's saying hundreds of portals, and they're used for different things. Um, some will just be for maneuvering in the woods itself. Some will be different areas, like Zoran, for example, is in the forestry where I feel like Mama's family's from. And we've seen her in our woods as well. Uh, but they're in that same forestry, there's a whole area, it's like an airport of arches. And I feel like they can go to different locations if they have family in other areas or things that are of particular interest to them, that they will use those types of portals to go a distance. Some of them are even what we would call um, international, where they can, if Anku has a meeting, he'll use that type for the bigger travel. And it's given that only certain ones can use those, um, or with certain permissions. They're almost signature to certain leaders or certain individuals based on their responsibility. Um, did the aliens bring them here? Which we might have to do a segment on. Their origins and connections. We've talked about how aliens might be more interdimensional beings than they are extraterrestrial beings. Um, I don't want to bypass the question, but I have a feeling it's going to get pretty extensive. Ta-da, ta-da. Junior, did you enjoy the spicy snacks? Yeah, absolutely. More, more, please. He does. He loves spice. Uh, who is their creator? Anku. Who is your creator? And he said, the creator. Um, do you worship a creator? They do. They're actually much more, um, what's the word, Anku? They don't follow a specific doctrine like we relate to doctrine. He says, one heart, one mind, all is one. Their doctrine is oneness. Their doctrine is unity and harmony. So I guess we could call that a doctrine. Um, the It's not by a book in regards to a teaching. It's an understanding. One second. The when they speak of a creator, they speak of, he says the, like he's capitalizing the creator. Boom. he said, why would we follow less as big as we are? I think it's his dry humor in saying as big as they are, they have to have source as their, they have a great understanding for source and love and acceptance as a part of that love. They do know. Pepper was asking if they knew Jesus. They know all, not just the Son of God, but they know all of the great teachers, all of the great masters. And for a few, when they've gone into their desert, or he's mentioning shaman, in certain environments, when they have gone into their sabbatical, if you will, and they're learning, one of the privileges, Anku says, is that occasionally they get to help in teaching if they've elevated enough in the way that they communicate. And it seems to be a combination of factors, but very often as they're going through as that teacher is going through that ritual or that process of reconnecting, these people are very implemental in helping them in that growth, whether that's with nature or the creator, with, he says, all, with all that is. And I can feel him kind of retracting because he knows that's a big, broad statement and needs further explanation. But what he's trying to express is they do know the energy of Christ, and that light, when he spoke of the I am, he's bringing that energy back here in saying, when we make those divine connections, it opens up the center of our being and the energy of the master teachers. And he said, it's certainly Christ is even above those, but that energy can work with our energy and become a part of us non-invasively and bring us to those higher dimensions of thought and feeling and unity. Yeah, there's a lot in that too. So just to try to reel it back in a little bit, because I feel like he would go forever on that one. He said, often you call it God. Other traditions might call it something else. He said, but it's so much bigger than what you know. It's so much more than what you can grasp in that allness, because it's every space, everything, and it creates through sound, it creates through the vibrations, and through, he said, it's not a person in the way that you see a person. He said, not all of you. I find him correcting himself a little bit tonight. He's realized how much so many of you have grown and how broad-minded you've become. And he doesn't want to generalize because he knows that's not fair. But many, he said, many consider it like this individual person. And he said, it's the breath. He said, it's the breath that you breathe. That is God. That is the Creator, is the very breath that you breathe. And it's in everything. So to try to call it by a single name in his understanding of names minimalizes that energy to a degree because it puts it in its own box. And he said, and it's not an energy that you can box. It's not an energy that can be contained. It's so much more. Okay. So we're on a couple hours. I don't know if you guys are getting tired. I am like way behind on questions here. Coastal check, Anku. When I have visits with my family, when I can see my surroundings and theirs at the same time, am I doing the connection or that? It's both. He said the illusion is that you're separate. You still see separation. The more we begin to see everything as the same, everything is one, everything is you, he says. The more you see this thing as being a part of who you are, representing a part of who you are even more, the more you realize that there is no them or us. There is no divide. They're very much, Coastal Chick, they're very much in line with your energy, but you're in line with theirs. So it's kind of just get the sense of something like a interstate where the traffic's going both ways. And as soon as maybe you feel their energy coming toward you, yours starts immediately going back toward them, or vice versa. But it feels very conjunct, very in sync, reciprocative. That's the word I want. Thank you, Emmanuel. Where do they procreate? Or do the squatchy thing in this dimension? Oh, I'm cool. Mark's asking about the squatchy thing. He says, yeah. Is that in this dimension? Most often. Yeah. Most often in this dimension. And he said sacred spaces. They procreate more, or these at least, he says they procreate more as a means of reproduction. They're very loving toward each other, but as far as actual procreation, it feels like it's really specifically about procreation, not just acts of pleasure. We may have to explore that some more. Let's see. Does a human have to be within a certain distance to mind speak with them? No. You can be miles and miles and miles, hours away from them, and they can still, the connection's in the energy, not in the space. And that's part of why we have tried to start at least integrating dimensional thought is to understanding for them there really is no such thing as space or time. 1 second. Ken? I have to call in the recruit here. I'm being mauled by a camera carrying dog. I'm being mauled.
I'm gonna feed you to Junior. Come on.
Poor Junior. I don't know if he's spicy enough. Oh, sorry. So, yeah. Dimensionally speaking, if you take out space and you take out time, what's left? And you start, some of it kind of gets into string theories and different things. Quantum physics has hit on the edges of all of these things. Anku says it's much more than that, but to try to make it as simple as he can, it doesn't matter how far, like in our case, I have felt him huge distances away from us physically. A lot of that for some of the functions that he has to participate in his role. But if I focus on him, it sends that vibration out, and he's right on it. And what it feels like to me is in that layering, there is an aspect of him that can stay very present in what he's doing. Then there's that other piece. And for us, it would be the equivalent of you're sitting in your chair, you're very present in your space, but your mind is elsewhere, or a part of your mind is maybe daydreaming, or, you are very aware that you have a physical presence in this space at this moment. But your energy, is not just in that space. Your mind, your thoughts are picking up on all of the sublime that's going on. And so there's an aspect of you that can be in both places at the same time, he said. It's very similar to them. They have the ability to be very present and still be very present with you, regardless as to how far that is. Excuse me. I'll get my coffee. Much better. Okay. Can the people recognize humans who have had encounters with their kind before? Yes. And to think about your question. And I think, John, you asked, can Anku recognize humans who have had interactions with his people? I think they all have a sense if we've had interactions, not just Anku. But I think, like I said, there's something that is energetically different about us once we have had an experience with these people. Honestly, I can say that I would never be the same again. So, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all, but the way that I perceive everything, the way that I think about everything, probably 75% has changed or been added to. So, yeah, I definitely feel that it leaves a resonance that they can pick up on. Would Dogman be type 3, or is that something totally different? Let's ask Albert. Would Dogman be a type 3? He said no. We could ask, though, would Dogman resonate with the type 3 personality? And he says yes. So personality for personality, aggression for aggression, lack of light, he says, is very similar between the type 3s and the dogmen. And they have a lot of the same assertiveness or aggressiveness about them. Very good question, Albert. Let's see. So Mindspeak is something that just takes some practice. Sometimes it's in asking the right questions and actually being willing to receive that information, because I think we all, as human beings, like the idea of Mindspeak or having interactions. But if we look in that mirror and we truly have the opportunity to look hard, is there still reservation or fear about it? Because I don't feel like they will generally mind speak with anyone if it's going to create a fear. So just something to consider. Population in this area. So if I ask Anku about his area, he's going to consider it all of his territory that he has charge over or responsibility to. And so in the southeast, however that exactly measures, and that's probably where I'm giving pause because I don't have exact boundaries. I can ask. How many? Anku. 25, 35. Help me out, brother. In your area, how many of your people? Now he's countering my question. He's saying type 1s, type 2s, type 3s, question mark, question mark. Let's go for a broad. You can include all types if that's easier. Oh, sorry. Type 2. About 25. I'm getting a strong through this southeastern region, and I think this may include 2s and 3s. May have to focus on that a little bit more with him, but I'm feeling a really strong 25,000. He's including Appalachians, Watchta, and he does show me some swampland, so it may be including some of the type 3s, but there's some type 3s they just don't associate with at all, so that may be his pause in giving numbers if it were to include those, because they don't try to intentionally harm them. But I feel for some reason, I feel like there's not strong communication with them either. So the numbers thing may not be accurate to include them. There's actually a lot more on the face of the earth than we realized. People tried to say for years that it was just a bare few thousand. No. All over the world, massive numbers. And that includes our most remote areas too. So, have any of your group offered to learn English? Interestingly enough, we were talking about this the other night. The EVPs actually, they are able to maneuver the frequency in such a way that if the speed and the pitch is adjusted, it actually, the majority of it does come out in English. I think they have a broad understanding for language. And more importantly, they seem to understand that words are vibrations. So once they have figured out the electronic device and technology and how it is taking that vibration in, they can maneuver it in whatever way they need to. It's kind of hard for us to get our brain wrapped around sometimes, but they are electronic geniuses. It would be nice if I could just sit down with the little ones and teach them English. I'm sure that they're learning some because sometimes I hear them kind of bantering or chanting and it sounds like they're practicing. I heard Took talking one day and he kind of has the tone, it's not as deep as Junior's, but I thought I was hearing what I would hold to be the equivalent of about a teenage boy whose voice is just beginning to change. It's kind of low, but it's not its lowest yet. And he was just steady talking, and it just sounded like he was practicing. And we've had a couple of other spots come through, one on a night walk, and it sounds like they're practicing. So maybe, maybe that's a personal challenge to them too, to learn how to communicate with us. And being the mimics that they are, it might be a lot easier for them to learn English than for us to learn Sasquatch, especially with the breathing, in the way that they breathe with their sounds and their words. Let's see. I said, as far as talking to them, just talk to them. And just treat them like people, Have that conversation with them and they'll feel your heart even if there's any dispute over the words that you use. I heard one time that God doesn't hear our prayers or our thoughts. He feels them. And I feel like these people are very similar in that they feel our thoughts and our words more than they pay attention to all that little verbiage that we use or slang that we use, that it's more in the vibration of what we're presenting and the feeling that's behind our words. Very powerful to them. They don't care for Dogman at all. Anku brought that forth a few months back, and he didn't even really want to talk about it. I mean, he just, I think some of the protective glyphs and different things that they have placed are for the point and purpose of keeping those types of energies out. So his experience, at least, has never been positive with Dogman. Okay. So what we're probably going to have to do is probably have another visit. There's so many good questions here. Let's see. Some of the questions I'm intentionally waiting on just because we're already 2.5 hours in. All of them are worth addressing. A few of them might be better for individual session because they're going to be long enough by themselves as questions. But I really think we should plan on doing this again maybe another week or 2 weeks from now. I'll try to plan one for, say, Saturday around lunchtime or something like that so that we can hit different time zones to be fair. The earlier you are and with your questions, the easier. You guys have all had some amazing questions. And like I said, they're all things that we need to address and I would love to address. I just don't know that I should spend another 2.5 hours in it just tonight. So if you would be willing to write your questions down if they haven't been answered, that way we don't forget anything important. We'll wrap it up for tonight. And we'll readdress those same questions first thing on the next session. It might be that you can email me and I'll know who should be first, or if you're first in, then that will help. But we'll get all the wrinkles worked out. We've never tried this before. Most of the questions we were able to approach pretty swiftly. And like I said, I really appreciate everybody being here. Thank you for bearing with our initial technical difficulties, but that shouldn't be a problem again. Thank you to Ken for moderating and for SoCal doing the same. I hope everybody has a great night. If you haven't subscribed, please do so that you will be notified of the next session or other videos that we're putting out. Anybody that needs a personal reading or energetic session, Ormus, or dowsing rods, email me and we'll get that information to you. God bless. Everybody have a good night. Thank you, and we'll see you soon. Good night.